just gonna wait for people to come on in a little bit. A little bit late, but unfortunately, technical difficulties and all that. Managed to channel directly from my phone. Interesting. Let's pop back into Discord. There we go. Alright. Hello to my one viewer so far. How are you? How are you this evening? Just gonna wait maybe another minute or two, see if anyone else wants to jump in before I get started. Alright. Still saying my bit rate's unstable. Chat. There we go. I can see much easier. Alright. Is the music too loud? Alright, so I guess I'm gonna get into it. So, for those of you watching live, welcome. I'm going to be streaming my first attempts at more competitive builds for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles characters. If you know me from YouTube, I'm EVS Hermit. I do a lot of new player-friendly content, especially my Day Zero builds, where I go through very beginner-friendly versions of each character. But I've had some people ask for more competitive versions, so I thought I would do this as a stream that I could upload onto YouTube. Settings to disable low latency mode. Okay. Is everything working for you guys? So, for those of you who might be watching on YouTube, I'm going to be going through all of the characters for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles set, and kind of giving my overall thoughts on their competitive viability, what I think of them now that I've had some time to sit with them, and what I think could be a good starting point for a more competitive build. So let's start, as always, with the top. We got April O'Neil, high school reporter. Excuse me. She's a 6 hand size, 27 health character, all in void symbols. As a static, your check to play ally cards gets +1, ally attack cards get +1. As an enhance, you force your rival to mill 1, they discard the top card of their deck. Use the effect below that matches the mill card's check value. If it's 6 or greater, your rival discards a card. If it's 4 or 5, you get to review 1 card, and if you do, draw 1 card. And if it's a 3 or less, you simply draw 1 card. Unlike my day zeros, I'm not going to be going over every single card individually. That's why I've got the list up here. I will just be going over kind of what I think this character can do competitively and highlight some of the some of the good things I think she can do. So obviously you want to play ally cards. So like April's Investigation's a must because it's an ally and you can stack your rival's deck. Because you can review, and you have cards like code edits which can treat themselves as multiple card types. Lurker Strike is actually really good for her. It's a 3-4, but it gets various abilities based on the number of card types that you have reviewed during the turn. So if you review a foundation, you get to build the next foundation you play. If you review an asset, you get to remove 2 cards from your rival's discard pile. If you review an attack, your rival has to discard a card. So discarding something like code edits actually works both as an asset and a foundation. So you get to use both abilities of Lurker Strike. So that's really cool. You get to remove some of their cool cards that you've been forcing them to mill, because she mills very quickly. And if you review an attack, you can make them discard an additional card. It's just really cool. Which is also where cards like Sweeping Daggers comes in. You get to remove any card from your rival's discard pile and gain all of its abilities and keywords, which is super strong, especially when you're constantly milling your rival out. You can just pick off all their best pieces. Tri-Gravity Beam is always good because you can, again, force your rival to discard more cards. Stabbing Dagger is good for if your rival has 15 or more cards in their discard pile, which they'll get pretty quickly. You get more speed damage. And Rising Uppercut's just a cheeky, good block, and it can be an attack you can throw on your rival's turn for even more mix-up on their turn for milling. Capable Return's great defense. Airship is amazing because you can pick up cards like Lurker Strike, Sweeping Daggers. You can just commit and freeze your airship to pick up any of your attacks and duplicate some very powerful abilities. And of course, you got good defense on your actions like Genkai's Guidance, Filled with Doubt, Barrier Shield. If you're running one of these 3 symbols and you're not running Barrier Shield, I don't know what you're doing. But hello, welcome. So we're just going over April right now. I've just been saying how you don't really need to lean into the ally package. I have some reverb and a little crackle. Could that be another speaker? Your mic's being recorded. Let me check real quick. Yes, absolutely. Because I had to restart my microphone. Thank you very much for that. I did not notice. Thank you, Mr. Final Max. So, let me know if that sounds better. Because I think it was also picking up not only the audio from my headset, but also the camera. Awesome, thank you. So, with April, you don't need to lean into the ally package, but being able to lean into the void package of manipulating your rival's discard pile and ripping cards out of their hand, with like Tri-Gravity Beam, Sweeping Daggers, Lurker Strike can remove cards. You can effectively remove all of your rival's attacks and just play to an end game of they can't touch you. So that's kind of what I went with this package here. Stabbing Daggers obviously can give you just a bit more speed and damage if you need. April's Investigation sets up your mills, and then you're mainly going on defense with your Foundation base, Unarmed Non-Combatant, just to give Breaker 2. Code edits, like I said, being treated as an asset and a foundation for the Lurker Strike, so you can remove cards and free build a foundation. Reboot is probably one of my favorite defensive pieces to come out of Turtles, to either take printed damage, or your rival has to discard an attack or a backup, and if they're not like Hanji or something, they're probably discarding an attack. You've got more milling with Nimble Thief. Corner Dagger Master is just 2 speed, 2 damage because you're always putting a card in your rival's discard pile. Treasure Hunting's always drawing you a card because you're going to put 15 cards in their discard pile pretty quickly. Number 2 Pro Hero, or number 4 Pro Hero, kind of builds itself as you review it, so it's a free foundation in the middle of the turn. Then you've got like Nonagon for sealing, so you're really mainly focusing on defense with your foundation base, and then your attacks are more for your clinical, picking out pieces of your rivals, picking all the best cards out of their discard pile, so that when they cycle, they lose even more cards, and it kind of just makes her a very disruptive kind of control character that I'm really excited to put some actual work into, even though I don't have 4 sweeping daggers, because I'm broke. But I think April is really cool. I think if you can put enough time and effort into her, like I said, especially with some of these, I'm going to pick your discard pile clean of all your best cards, and by the time you cycle, you're just not going to be able to touch me anymore. Really rinse down to this kind of war of attrition that you're definitely going to win. And I'm going to try, since I have 15 characters to get through, not to spend too much time on each of these, so let's move right on to Bebop. So Bebop, Burly Brawler, is a 6 hand size, 31 health character, Brute Mutant, Water Earth. Once per turn, as an enhance, you get to add the top card of both players' decks to their card pool face down. And enhance, if you have 3 or more cards in your card pool, this attack is +3 or -1 damage. So first thing I thought when I saw this character, this is a City Rampage character, because this counts as a card. The first attack you play counts as a card. You build in you put your card into your card pool with his enhance on your first attack. That's automatically Godzilla stats. That's 3 damage plus your 1/1 from City Rampage. So he is just a smaller Godzilla, but he also stuffs a card in your rival's card pool on their turn. Rampage, of course, gives all your attacks 1 speed, 1 damage, and your checks to play attacks with a printed difficulty of 5 or greater get +2 for the rest of the turn, effectively taking City Rampage and the face down card that you stuffed into your card pool out of progressive difficulty. So it kind of turns your negative into a bit of a non-issue. Attack lineup here is kind of all about messing with your rival. You got Chair Shove to put another card in their card pool. Smashing Stomp extends your strings by giving your next check to play a card +1. Rapid Rescue, I think, is kind of a neat choice because it flips itself in your card pool, and you'll see why that's a good idea in a minute. But you also get to free build a foundation in the middle of a turn, which is really solid, especially when you're dealing with this increased progressive difficulty that you're putting on yourself. But then Rapid Rescue and your face down won't count towards progressive difficulty for Acid Screen. Face downs don't count towards progressive difficulty to play this card. It's a 4 high 7. So with City Rampage and Bebop, it's a 5 high for 11. And you get to draw a card for free. It's also got Deflect 4, which is very nice on defense. Ice Sword is just you're tapping down all of your rival's best foundations. It can get really big with that spend a momentum cost. And, because you're not running a lot of speed boost, the 1 speed from Rampage plus the cards in their card pool is going to make this a real hard attack to block. Same with Chimera Kraken, 4/6, but again, if you're getting the 1/1 with Rampage, you're stuffing a cards in their card pool. You can commit and freeze one of their foundations. You can commit their assets. Just basically, you're tapping down their stage and stuffing their card pool and just making sure they're not blocking anything. And nothing in here is for less than printed 5 damage, but almost every card has a way to either mess with your rival or boost its own stats. So these are definitely coming in for big chunks of damage. Airship, of course, is just a great card for a character like this, because if you stuff a face down card in your card pool and it's another attack, you can just pick that card back up, which is really cool. Also, it's a way to just get rid of that progressive difficulty. So I think Airship in Bebop is kind of a must. Item Box, great defense. It resets everything to printed. You don't have to worry about it. which then, after resetting everything to printed, if you've got 3 cards in your card pool, you can give it minus damage. And that's kind of where cards like Referee Jury come in handy on defense, because it sets an attack's damage to 4. If that attack deals damage, draw a card. And you can flip it and commit a foundation to force your rival to commit a foundation if they're playing enhanced abilities. And it's a card that sits in your card pool, so you can give -1 damage to all of your rival's attacks. And then, of course, Filled with Doubt can seal an attack, and it stays in your card pool for the same reason. And then your foundation base, again, is kind of just defense. We've got Hard-Headed to clear our own progressive difficulty. Heavy Feet can give plus or minus damage. I love this card. Out to Lunch. -5 damage on any attack is just so powerful. Reprimand can help commit your rival's foundations, so you're really trying to push all of that +3 damage onto every attack through. Purge Evil, if your rival has 2 or more cards in their card pool, your attack gets another 3 damage. June's Flowing Strikes can stuff more cards in your rival's card pool. Expression of Friendship can boost your checks if you've got face-down cards in your card pool. So having a Tenacious Foundation that can sacrifice itself for +2 to your check is huge. And of course, you've got cards like Cheerful Teen for more card pool stuffing. This dude is just going to be annoying. This dude is going to stuff your rival's card pool, offense and defense, and just really wear them down. And the fact that you're adding to their progressive difficulty on defense is going to obviously make it so they're going to have to commit more foundations to pass their stuff, and then you play cards like Fast Hybrid Chimera Kraken and Ice Sword Execution to say, hey, I'm going to commit even more of your foundations while stuffing your card pool offensively. And I think this dude, he's kind of a slower Godzilla, and he doesn't have like the big board wipe or like the built-in check hacks, but I think that clogging progressive difficulty on both players' turns is enough to warrant Bebop taking a competitive look at the Warthog. Because, man, I already hate card pool stuffing decks, and if you throw something like the Raphael in here, I didn't think it was warranted, but the water backup from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set, you're just stuffing even more cards in their card pool, and it's just gonna get gross. So let's move on to Bishop, the robotics engineer. 722, inventor keyword, evil and void symbols. As an enhanced, attack gets 1 speed for every 4 cards in your stage, including Bishop themselves, which is really cool. Welcome, everybody. And then once per turn as a response, after you check an asset with a printed difficulty of 3 or less, build it. Fling, Fillet, and Rocksteady you have Gas and Bebop. Don't let that distract for now. Yeah, I had considered those, but I kind of wanted... Whoops. Going back to Bebop here. I kind of wanted to stick to the Rampage game plan, Mr. Final Max. That's the only reason the Fillet Fling isn't in here. And the Rocksteady I just didn't feel like it could... I didn't feel like it was necessary for this version of the deck, but you're absolutely right. Those cards can absolutely put in a lot of work in a Bebop that's more about picking up your cards and clearing them. I might play that in like an Earth build, where I can have not only hard-headed, but forcing surrender, so that I'm always moving those face-down cards all over the place. I didn't want to lean into that too much here, because I had a feeling I might do that with the Rocksteady, so I kind of wanted to mix them both up a little bit. So back to Bishop. So after you check an asset with a printed difficulty of 3 or less, you can build it, and that's on both players' turns. So she's going to get a lot of speed really quick. So the main issue we're trying to find is damage. But since she is an asset character, you're obviously playing cards like Anti-Mutant Neutralizer, which this card is in and of itself kind of a beating. 1 speed, 3 damage. But when you build it during the combat phase, you get to draw a card, which is already nuts for a 7-hander. You've got Donnie's Bowstaff, pick it up for a breaker 2 block whenever you need. Military Airship, of course, because we can just pick up any cards in our card pool. So we can either pick up blocks, we can pick up more attacks to play over and over. We've got Cabal's Ruin, no soup. No, I did not have Soup in here. I'll be honest, I've been building these over the past week and a half, so I'm kind of revisiting these for the first time. Soup definitely would be a good card to play in Bishop. Because it is a 1 difficulty asset, for those not in the know, that when you play it as a form or into your card pool like as a block, you get to free build it, and you can commit it to gain a health and get +1 damage. But Cabal's Ruin is just real good because you're an inventor that gets that -1 speed all the time, and then you can commit to get a bunch of damage if you perfect block a lot of stuff with those charge counters. And it's a 6 check, so that's always great. And who wouldn't want to build a Cape of No Return in the middle of a turn just by checking it and saying, hey, I don't have to worry about that attack. And I kind of wanted to keep this to a tighter asset package, which is probably why I didn't include Soup. Because I think the first time I did build Bishop, I had like 16 assets and not a lot of foundations, and it didn't really feel right to me. It felt like I'd be floundering for passing my checks a lot, even though we do have some ways to pass our checks without foundations. But for our attacks, we have Chucking Cars, because you can destroy any asset in play for damage equal to its printed cost, or printed difficulty. So like 2 on Anti-Mutant Neutralizer, 3 on a military airship that you've already committed and frozen, which is pretty solid. And then if you destroyed an asset in your stage this combat phase, you get to draw a card. So making this, like, say you've already used military airship, making this a 6-high 9 that draws you a card, pretty good. Rebuilt Forces, I really dig this card because you just build any backup from your discard pile with a difficulty of 3 or less, and then your rival's next check this turn gets -1 for each backup. So we are playing the Mechazoids, only 6 of them, just because we want to make this as like simple as possible. We don't want to be checking too many non-attack cards. It counts itself as an asset, so you can build it with her ability. You can commit them to commit your rival's foundations on your attacks, and if they're destroyed, you get to draw a card and discard a card. So you blow this up with Chucking Cars for 2 damage, you get to draw a card and discard a card with Mechazoid, and then you get to draw a card with Chucking Cars. And seeing all that kind of card cycle on a 7-hander is pretty tight. But of course, we're playing the Mechazoid Onslaught, which I actually pulled 2 of the Ooze versions of this card, one from a pre-release kit and one from my box. And out of that box, I only pulled 1 Mechazoid, so I'm very annoyed. But just a 6 difficulty card, it's a 4 low 4, but you can build any Mechazoid from your discard pile or your deck, and then you get speed and damage for each Mechazoid. So this can get out of hand really quickly. And again, that's another stun, basically, thanks to your Mechazoid. Technological advantage, draws if you have an asset in your stage. Ice Sword is just here to stack on massive damage because Bishop finds the speed. Bishop is going to put a lot of speed on things very quickly. So the main issue you're looking at is damage, which is why you have like Mechazoid Onslaught can give damage, Ice Sword Execution can give damage, and something also for speed, Violent Animus Shot. After this attack deals damage, your rival removes a random card in their hand, and we can commit a foundation to remove a backup from either stage, and if we did, we get to draw a card, and this card gains Flash. So if we just need to hit pretty fast, we can remove one of our own Mechazoids and give this Flash and draw a card. So that's pretty cool, and it's got that nice Breaker 1. Mechazoids seem to have a low pull rate for an uncommon. Yeah, I've got a local who bought a case, and he got exactly 1 playset of Mechazoids from a case. That's insane to me. Hello, Quantra 5. Hey. But the OP pack should make up for the alt arts. Yes, they expect us to grind locals for play the alt arts. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't like it, but I'm not here to shill for the company. I'm here to talk about these fun decks. So for actions, of course, since we're on the Mechazoid platform, Exterminate Mutants, we can just keep building Mechazoids from our discard pile. So you can commit them to force your rival to commit all their foundations. Bishop's giving a bunch of speed, so all of your attacks are pretty much guaranteed to hit. And then you have ways to gain damage, like with the Anti-Mutant Neutralizer, Ice Sword boosts its own damage. Onslaught boosts its own damage. Chucking Cars builds its own damage. And you can blow up a Mechazoid for 2 damage. And then Exterminate Mutants, build that Mechazoid back in, commit another Foundation. And of course, Barrier Shield, because we are a squishy 7-hander who needs a lot of defense, and Barrier Shield's one of the best defensive actions, if not the best defensive action right now. Have you built her on Evil yet? Deadly Ruthlessness was a massive draw for me on Bishop. I have not. This is just my... These are all, like, they're called, like, the level 2 decks. This is, like, my first attempt at thinking about them competitively. I have not had a chance to actually build any of these characters physically because I just don't have a lot of cards yet. But Deadly Ruthlessness does sound really good for an Evil Bishop. And, of course, you have... foundations that count themselves as assets, code edits, and extra supplies, being able to cancel blitz abilities and commit your assets as if they were foundations to pass checks in a pinch, respectively, is really strong. Because, like the Mechazoids, if you're not committing them on your turn to commit down all your rivals' cards, maybe you just had a poke turn, you can flip an extra supplies to commit Mechazoids defensively to pass checks to pass a check to block. So it's like doubling effectively your foundation base in a pinch, which I really like. Hunting Mutants gives you +5 damage really quickly. Of course, you've got more speed with cards like Rifle Arm, Reboots good defense. This has quickly become one of my favorite defensive pieces in this set. Just sacrificing to say, hey, either lose an attack or I'm taking printed damage is really strong. Botan's coaching helps cycle through. Juggling groceries is really good if you get outbuilt foundation-wise, because if you're playing more assets and you kind of have like a lower foundation count, juggling groceries is almost always going to be a -3 speed. Then you got a little bit more damage with Red Right's the coolest, and stopping for breakfast to really mess up your rival's actions. Because again, we're seeing a lot of Barrier Shield. We could see a lot of Exterminate Mutants with the Falling Titans loop. So being able to cancel, well, I suppose you would just be canceling the Mill 3 on the first form. It would still keep it in the card pool, so they can still use that ability. So maybe stopping for breakfast isn't necessary, but I think I also put it in here to shore up our low block count. Of course, like I said, Mechazoid, just in here to force our rival to commit more cards so that we're constantly making sure that our attacks hit for whatever damage we can put through. Alright, let me take a quick drink. Let me know if it's buffering too bad, because it keeps telling me that it's buffering and my live is unstable, but it's not telling me like how to fix that. Alright, on to Donatello the Smart One. This is Bishop in reverse, because instead of speed, Donnie gives damage. And I will say that I had a local bring a Spotlight Donatello deck to our locals last night, and man, Donnie's gonna hurt somebody. This dude pops off real hard. He's a 723, Inventor Mutant, good Void. Enhance your attack just for free, gets +1 damage for every asset in your stage. Like I said, Bishop does speed, or he does damage. So if you can find the speed with him, he's just going to hurt people. And then you can commit him after you block. Oh god, soup for him too. Yep, soup for Donnie would be really good too. But again, I probably missed it somehow. But after you block with a printed difficulty 4 or less asset, you can build it by committing him. But yeah, soup would be really good here for Donatello as well. Collecting scraps lets you pick up any asset from your discard pile as long as it's difficulty 3 or less, which all of ours are. Disabling jab, just you don't need to worry about speed if you can rip cards out of your rival's hand. So this is really good, and if you block with this card, you get to flip the blocked attack before damage, so that's pretty strong. Spinning Swing, I was a little low on until my local was throwing a Spinning Swing with +7/+7 at our locals because he had like 4 assets and 3 of the foundations that treated themselves as assets. And yeah, so this coming in at an 8 mid 13 as his 3rd attack is just disgusting. Again, we can draw with technological advantage. Ice Sword is amazing because you don't need speed if you're tapping down all of their foundations, and it can give you even more damage. I'm more of the Mechazoid Donnie build just for the extra attacks it can bring. Also looking for maybe 5 assets for the deck and 14 quote-unquote assets. Yeah, that too. The local that I was playing did have a bunch of... he did have the Mechazoid build with like Mechazoid Mayhem or whatever the asset that the attack that builds him in. But since I already did that for Bishop, I kind of wanted to make Donnie a little bit different. So I went with more of like a discard from your hand theme with Tri-Gravity Beam and Disabling Jab, so that we can try to get cards out of our rival's hands so we don't have to worry about speed as much, and we can just focus on throwing a whole crap ton of damage down our rival's throats. And pretty much the same asset build for Donnie as Bishop, because they're virtually the same characters, they're just mirrors of each other. I put a little bit more defense in here with Genkai's Guidance, just because we can just yeet and attack, or as a first form, we can remove it and discard a card to force our rival to discard a card, kind of going in with the discarding theme of Donnie that I built for this one to kind of make up for the fact that we don't have a lot of speed. So between this, Tri-Gravity Beam, Disabling Jab, you can just completely rip your rival's hand apart and say, yeah, you're just not blocking any of this. Brotherly Love, all of the asset cards. So you have Brotherly Love, Code Edits, Extra Supplies, Hunting Mutants for even more damage. We've got Speed with Rifle Arm. Daily Training is just a way to build free foundations from our hand mid-turn, which is just pretty dope. Hungry for Pizza gives us a little speed and some health gain. Juggling Groceries is good for early defense if we get outbuilt somehow, or if our rival's playing like a foundation destruction style build, like a Reiner. But yeah, this is a character I enjoyed. I like the thought of him, but man, after seeing him in action, this guy is gonna brutalize people, and it's not funny. It is really rough. So from Donnie, we'll go to Leatherhead. So this is one that everyone's kind of talking about, and for very good reason. 630 Mutant, Fire, Water. First form, add the top card of your rival's deck to their card pool face down. If they have 10 or more foundations, you add the top 2 cards of their card to the card pool face down instead. Response, discard a card after an attack is not blocked. It gets +1 or -1 damage for each card in your rival's card pool, which is just pretty good. Need an excuse to use my Throat Slitter promos, and Donnie is so gassed with it. Hey, funny you talk about Throat Slitter, that's coming up soon. Because I also have very pretty Throat Slitter promos that I slid into a TMNT character. But, so obviously we want a lot of like card pool clogging with Leatherhead, so we got Knockout Punch to do extra damage by forcing our rival to lose health. We also want to draw a bunch, so Lethal Slash, I mean, obviously is built for a character like this, because on Blitz you just draw a card, and then you can remove this card if it's your 2nd or greater attack, so you don't have to worry about your own progressive difficulty. I like Ayame, because it just says, draw a card. Your rival has at least 1 card in their card pool, draw a card. If you first form with Leatherhead, this is another just 4 difficulty draw card. We saw a lot of this with Younger Toguro, how you have all these 4 difficulty attacks, these cantrip attacks that draw an extra card. So with Lethal Slash and Ayame, you can keep your hand pretty up there. Besiege is also just great because late string, your rival's not blocking it. Wish Hard, if you discard it for like Leatherhead's ability, you get to just draw an extra card. And something I thought would be really cool tech, Rosewhip Barrage. If your rival has 2 or more cards in their card pool, this attack gets 3 damage. So it's a 5/6. And it has Echo, so it can become 2 5/6s at the cost of 1 momentum. So if you've got you know, 2 cards in your rival's card pool. Maybe you've stuffed another card. Maybe they've blocked 2 attacks already and they're all tapped out. Rosewhip Barrage can come in for a lot of damage, especially if they're not blocking and you're discarding cards for Leatherhead's ability to burn for even more damage. Of course, Item Box, good defense. Referee Jury is setting a card's damage to 4, and then if it deals damage, draw a card. So if they've got like 2 cards in their card pool, you can discard a card, take 2 damage, draw a card. Or just set it to 4 and draw a card and get more cards in your hand defensively with Leatherhead, which means you can discard them later in the string for higher damage reduction. And then of course we have even more card pool clogging in our foundation base. We've got Fleeing Danger, we've got Reprimand to commit foundations, so our rival cannot block our attacks, so we can constantly pitch more damage with Leatherhead. June's Flowing Strikes puts another card in their card pool. Purge the Evil is just 3 damage. Feral Shriek is more draw power. Mikasa's Admission, if we discard this card for plus or minus damage, thanks to Leatherhead, we get an additional +2 or -2 damage, so we can just either completely negate an attack or really mess up our rival's survival math. Cheerleader can help with this, just defensively spend a momentum. Their attack gains flash, and then you can just discard a card for less damage. I really like Legendary Bandit here in Leatherhead because as soon as you first form, you can just commit this and say, hey, you've got 2 cards in your card pool now. Or heaven forbid, they have 10 foundations. Now they have 3 cards in their card pool, and any of your cards are coming in with +3 damage, potentially with Leatherhead. Fateful Meeting is funny because you can take like 1 damage after reducing it with Leatherhead, and then burn your rival for 3. Same thing with Broken Psyche. You can just reduce damage to such a small amount and then Leatherhead it away. And a card I found in the Day 0 build that I really like the thought of, Effortless Movement. Response commit, after you take 3 or less damage from an attack, draw a card. So I can pitch an attack, or pitch a card for like -3 damage on an unblocked attack, maybe take 3 damage, draw another card, you play another attack, now it's going to get -4 damage. So just really crazy. I really dig this ability, and hey, we can get the twice per turn enhanced if we play the Rosewhip Barrage, and we echo it, we can just give plus speed or plus damage. Reckless Abandon can just get us a card to our hand if we need it, and then Singing Fish could also like pseudo-draw a little bit. So the main issue with Leatherhead is how do you keep your hand kind of full, and I think that we, especially on the water symbol, have a lot of cool ways to do that. Like I said, especially with Effortless Movement, Reckless Abandon, Singing Fish. We still have a whole bunch of draw stuff with Feral Shriek and Wish Hard. And even like Referee Jury can draw us a card on defense so that we can try to survive turns when we otherwise might not. But yeah, Leatherhead I think is going to be one to watch because this character is going to get crazy. Who's next? Leo. Man. I know a lot of people like Leonardo. Raise your hand in chat if you're a Leo fan. I hate self-mill characters. So he's a 631, all good. He's got Champion and Mutant, even though he doesn't really have anything to do with the Champion keyword. As a response, after an attack is blocked, you can look at the top card of your deck. If you may commit this card. If you do, you may draw 1 card. Otherwise, you may mill 1. And the response after you mill 1 or more cards, this attack or your next attack plus 1 damage. So, number 1 card to play on this guy, turn it up. Especially on the all symbol, it's a 5 mid 2, you can play it late in a string, and you can enhance both players mill 1. If your rival did not mill an attack, you can play this ability again. And it's not once more this enhanced step, it is you keep doing this until your rival mills an attack, which can, if they're just checking a whole bunch of like assets, actions, foundations, backups, you can just keep going and keep stacking a lot of damage on a late string turn it up and just really pump your rival out. Forward Flip Slash is also really good in him, if it'll load. Come on. we've got 12 attack or less this format. It could get very funny. Absolutely. Okay, there we go. Forward flip slash finally loaded. But yeah, with like the Deku decks that are like the One Punch Deku, or the Falling Titans decks that are pretty much only playing Falling Titans, Turn It Up Leo could absolutely be a meta game plan to just say, hey, I'm going to mill a little bit, keep saying my next attack is going to get more, play a late game Turn It Up, and just dunk a whole bunch of damage on it. So forward flip slash, it's got Echo, so you can play it twice. EX2 and Powerful 2, and you may mill 1 as though you were spending momentum each time you pay for this attack to be extra powerful. So you could actually make this a very threatening attack by saying I'll EX2 for like 1 momentum and mill 1, so that's 4 speed. And then let's say you have 2 more momentum, so you could be like I'll Powerful 2 for the 2 momentum and mill 1, so another 6 damage. And say, hey, this is a 5 high for 8 as like my second or third attack. And I said for all of that milling, I'm going to boost the next one and boost a Turn It Up after that, and just watch your rival's face fall. But also good for milling, you've got like Inevitable Clash, Enhance, add the top card of your discard pile to your hand. And it's got Powerful 3, so you can spend the momentum and then pick up that momentum. But it's just another cool card that you can throw more damage on. You've got Steady Shot. If the top card of your discard pile is an attack, your rival loses 2 health and you gain 2 health. Pretty fun, especially when you got cards like Leo's Katana that can be milling constantly in the middle of a turn. So with that inevitable clash, you can kind of pick and choose when you want to use these abilities. And another really great card, Fiery Vengeance. Lose 2 health after this attack resolves. If it was completely blocked, remove it and your rival loses 2 health. This can reduce them to 0. So if your rival's not paying attention, you can just auto burn them. And then you can spend a momentum after you mill an attack from the top of your deck, add it to your hand during this attack. So if you do like a Leo's Katana, I don't know why my computer's loading everything so slow. But if you Leo's Katana and commit it to mill 1 during Fiery Vengeance, and you mill an attack like a Turn It Up, you can spend a momentum to pick that Turn It Up. And you can do that as many times as you have momentum during Fiery Vengeance. So it's kind of a good way that if you've got momentum, you can kind of stack up a lot of attacks. And of course, Rising Uppercut is going to be hilarious in Leonardo, because Leo does not say like the next attack. It says this attack or your next attack. So you can keep milling. Like if you just have some milling abilities like the Leo's Katana, which is commit mill 1 if your attack deals damage, ready this asset. So you can mill and say, hey, I'm going to mill during your turn. I'm going to block an attack. I'm going to look at it, the top card of my deck, I'll mill 1. My next attack is going to get +1 damage. And stack it all on a Rising Uppercut on your rival's turn, so they're suddenly looking at this 4 high, like 8. And then you can mill during that to give it more damage. So suddenly they're facing this 4 high 10, 4 high 11 on their turn that they weren't prepared to deal with. So this is not only just a great high block, it is a hilarious, literal counterpunch to surprise your rival with. So when you start milling and you say, cool, my next attack gets +1 damage on their turn, they're going to have to wonder when the Rising Uppercut is going to come in, because that is hilarious. And of course, we've got Splinter. All 4 of the turtles are going to have Splinter in it. Spoilers, because this card is just really, really good. If it'll load. I don't know why Ultra is suddenly not wanting to load on me. But it's a remove after your rival plays an attack. If your character is a mutant, add it to the momentum face down. So this gets around face-up momentum shenanigans like Fast Hybrid Chimera Kraken and Black Abyss. And it just says, hey, I can't play Cape of No Return, so I'm just going to stuff this into your momentum and not have to worry about it. And of course, on our foundation base, we have like Daily Meditation, which allows us to mill at form speed, which is pretty cool. Leo's Discipline, which can give speed and damage equal to the number of Leo's Discipline in our discard pile +1. So this can get up to +4/+4, which is ridiculous. Gifts from Splinter picks up the Leo's Katana because it was eroded to have the weapon keyword. Hungry for Pizzas, just speed and health gain. I really dig Battle Hold's the answer. I think this is one of the best cards to come out of these Street Fighter decks, because just being able to stack a 6 on top of my deck whenever I think I need it is just really good. Urameshi Perseverance. We can spend a momentum to get any card from our discard pile to our hand. So since we're milling a bunch, we can just say, oh, I'm going to remove this, spend a momentum, pick up this, turn it up. And you know you can go in for a big kill. You also have Leaping and Bebop, which you can flip, spend 1 momentum, mill until you hit an attack, and you add that attack to your hand. I believe this says after you mill 1 or more cards, so you don't get +1 damage for each card milled. I think that'd be kind of busted, but hey, can't blame me for thinking that a self-mill character would be busted. Get the Scoop allows you to mill at enhanced speed. You can gain health with Motherly Affection. Seen It All can just be plus speed or damage based on having an attack on top of your deck. Hero's Icon allows you to mill once per turn, and if you milled an attack, you get +2 speed or -1 damage. So this is, again, another way to mill during your rival's turn if you're planning on a big Rising Uppercut counter, which is just pretty neat. And I was just looking for cards on all that self-mill, because self-mill is kind of the fire symbols gimmick, and Leo doesn't have fire, thankfully, because this man does not need 1-man Inferno. I don't think anyone wants him to have 1-man Inferno. This is nuts. I hate self-mill characters, but I think Leo's going to be pretty cool. Oh, we're 6 down, so now on to Mega Mutant, the guy I got to preview. If Ultra will speed up. There we go. Oh, my stream seems to be lagging way behind me. But at least my bitrate's excellent now. So that's good. So now we've got Mega Mutant, a 6-hand size 33 health character, giant mutant, evil in all. Response after you play an attack, it gets +1 speed and +1 damage for each ally in your card pool. Now I initially wanted to build this guy on all, simply for cute host Kodo, but then I realized, not worth it. The Black Abyss is way better. So we've got all ally attacks, because we can just constantly give all our attacks +1/+1 for every attack in our card pool. Mutant Mashup. For some reason, again, we're loading slow Ultra. There we go. So Mutant Mashup, you can mill 2, add an ally attack with a printed difficulty of 4 or less from our discard pile to our hand. So it's like creating a family, summon no moves, and stomp through town, which is a 1 diff, and it's amazing because it gets a 1 difficulty for every other card in your hand. But that means when you're playing it as a 1 diff, it's going to come in with a buttload of stats. It's like a 1 diff, like 8 for 8 maybe. Creating a family draws a card as long as there's another ally in your card pool. Black Sabbath is really cool, or Black Abyss Sabbath. You spend a momentum, your next check is +2, which boosts your stringing ability, and your rival's next check to play a card gets -2. So there's this pseudo, like, check hacking ability that you can do with a set like this, because you've got Black Abyss, and you've got I've Perfected the Ooze, which says if your ally attack is not blocked, your rival's next check gets -1. So if you're ripping cards out of their hand, or if you're check hacking their block so they can't block it, you can constantly keep making it harder to block your attacks, so that all these stats are really gonna slam down on your rival. Could be a software update causing slowdowns for you, or Chrome in general. Probably Chrome in general, and I don't know why I'm paying AT&T like over $100 for my internet when it keeps slowing down on me like this. But Covert Black Ops, if this is blocked, which as a base 6 damage move, probably your rival wants to do that, especially if you're putting, +2/+2 or +3/+3 on it. If it's blocked, your next ally attack is going to get 1 speed and 1 damage for every 4 foundations in your rival stage. So you're going to say, hey, I'm going to give it 1/1 for every card in my card pool, and I'm going to give it 1/1 for every 4 foundations in your stage. Your Stomp Through Town is going to frickin' bomb people. Or you're creating a family. And I do know that these are kind of high attacks to play mid-string. Like, you usually want to play like a 4 as your third attack. But if you're playing Summon Nomus, you say, hey, my next card is going to get -2 difficulty. Or you can commit 2 foundations to cancel that. But if they commit 2 foundations, they're likely not blocking anything that you're putting a bunch of stats on. So you play Summon Nomus as like your third attack. Say, hey, you commit 2, or my next card gets -2 difficulty, and then you play like a Black Abyss Sabbath and give your next check +2. And you just keep stringing with this modification of difficulty and check manipulation, and really just blow your opponent out. And then Chainsaw Nomu's funny because as a flash, you do get the response step of Mega Mutant to give it speed and damage, and then your rival doesn't get to do anything about it on the enhanced step. If you have fewer foundations than your rival, it's a 4 diff, which is really powerful. And then as a response, you can sack a foundation. If this attack deals damage, your rival has to discard a card. So Chainsaw Nomu is really, really funny in Mega Mutant. I think this is a really hilarious card because you get all of your responses on your playing a card, and you're just like, hey, here's a flash, deal with it. You didn't seal it, sucks to be you. Airship is good because you can loop ally attacks like creating a family or Chainsaw Nomus or Summon Nomus. Imagine looping a Summon Nomus and say, hey, my next one's going to get -2 difficulty. Your rival commits 2 foundations. Cool. All military airship, pick it up, abort the attack, play it again, give it stats again. My next one is going to get -2 difficulty. Or you commit 2 more foundations. I'm willing to abort a 6 mid-6 Summon Nomus to play it again and force my rival to make another difficult choice. I'm all about that. Aerie is a good ally because she can leave you at 1 health if you're about to take lethal damage, and she readies cards in your stage at the end of your turn, which is good. And then Twisty Surroundings is cool because it's a break or 2, and it's more check hacking to slow your rival down on their turn and make it harder for them to defend on your turn if they had to commit out to play a longer string. Fly. For actions, I did go with Trash the City because you can constantly commit your rival's board by playing out a longer string. And since we don't have a lot of speed boosting, this is just a really good way to kind of get around that. Berry Shield, obviously. And then we've got some ally backups. Sean gives us a check boost to make our strings go longer. And Cynthia, like normally you'd feel bad playing a 5 difficulty backup at the end of a string. But because it's an ally, you can just play it at the beginning of the string and it gives all your attacks an additional 1/1. And then you can commit it on your turn to force your rival to discard a card. So you can say, hey, you're just going to take a whole bunch of damage here. And then we've got, like I said, we got Perfecting the Ooze, we got Fighting for Control to try to reduce our rivals' checks so that they really struggle to block our stuff. We got Battle Holds the Answer, so we can stack a 6 on top whenever we need to, late in the string. Teenage Downtime's good to draw a card, and you can put any card you don't need on the bottom of your deck. Defending Pageant Queen is good defense. Condescending Explanation's good defense. Togoro's Dominance is an ally, so if you wanted to play just a couple of ally non-attack cards, like I Perfected the Ooze, Togoro's Dominance, Aerie, Cynthia, and then play like 1 attack, you can still give +3/+3 or +4/+4 for just playing out a bunch of foundations in 1 attack. So you still throw a decent sized attack at your rival as a poke, and you get to build. I think Martial Knowledge, yeah, was just here to draw cards. So Mega Mutant, not much to say about him. He's very straightforward. He is pretty strict on allies, because it's +1/+1 for every ally in your card pool. So you kind of want to play like an ally attacks package. Unless you have like a bunch of ally non-attack cards that can stay in your stage and not count towards progressive, and then you can just play a different attack package, which on all I am working on a build for that, but I just love the Black Abyss Black Ops style for Mega Mutant, and I think this is more powerful. I think the other one is a little bit more stable, but I think if you're really trying to hurt your rival, like Chainsaw Mutant after a Black Sabbath, after Summon Nomus, is just the way to go for stacking big damage on Mega Mutant. And speaking of those throat slitters, Metalhead, Protector of Mutants. 5 hand size, 37 health, tech keyword, Earth and Void. I actually took a very jank Earth build to my locals this week, and yeah, I should have probably built them on Void. I kind of focused on a lot of the damage reduction, and I got overwhelmed by true big powerful, yeah. I kind of got bopped because Donnie puts a lot of damage on things, and I didn't have enough damage reduction. But response once per turn after you take damage, your rival discards a card, and you get to flip one of their foundations. And then enhance, increase the keyword rating of the next keyword you play this turn by 1. So the main build here is we're getting big breakers, big stuns, and big powerfuls. So throwing in a throat slitter after my rival had to discard a card and saying, hey, I'm going to discard another card from your hand. And this is my 3rd card, so I've used Metalhead's ability to increase the next keyword rating on every attack so far. Yes, and big deflects. So let's say I've played 3 attacks, Throat Slitter's my 3rd, and I'm going to rip a card out of your hand, and I've, on each of those attacks, said, hey, my next keyword rating is going to get +1. This powerful 2 is now powerful 5. I've got 3 momentum. We're just going to chuck 20 damage at you after ripping cards out of your hand with Throat Slitter, Metalhead's ability. Backstab is really cool, because your rival has to discard a card, or they can flip 2 foundations to cancel this ability. If they do not have 2 foundations to flip, they just discard a card. So you have this kind of void hand destruction Metalhead style build that turns all their foundations face down and says, I'm just going to tear your hand out and then end with a big powerful like a massive blow. Massive blow itself is stupid. I'm going to mill 3. You get to flip a foundation, and my powerful rating gets +2. It becomes powerful 5. So imagine your rival has no hand because they had to block a throat slitter or something, or hell, you ripped cards out of their hand with backstab. They blocked a big Might of Stone because they were afraid, because it gets 1 damage for each of their face down cards. You flipped all their stuff with Butte Basher, and ended with a backstab, so they have to discard their last card. Then you play Massive Blow, and all this time you've been saying my next powerful is going to get +1, +1, +1. This turns itself into powerful 5. If this is your 3rd or 4th card, that's a powerful 8 or 9. Massive Blow is going to kill people. This is such a huge card. Granted, it doesn't have a lot of speed, but if your rival has no hand, speed doesn't matter, and that is incredibly powerful. And of course, we're playing big breakers like Twisty's Surroundings and Donnie's Bowstaff. Twisty is very good either as a block to boost your breakers with Metalhead, or as in your stage, I'm going to commit to give your check -2, so you have to commit more foundations, and then the breakers are going to get even worse after that. Donnie's Bowstaff, again, is just a really solid breaker. We've got Referee Jury. I can change an attack's damage to 4. If it deals damage, I draw a card. So I'll set your damage to 4. I'll take the hit, rip a card from your hand, draw a card, and I can flip it to commit one of my foundations to commit one of your foundations when you try to play any sort of enhance abilities. This is probably why I didn't win with my Metalhead. I only owned 1 Referee Jury, and I think this deck needs at least 3 of them, maybe 4. And kind of hesitant to play a lot of actions in a 5-hander, but it can really help your survivability. And just being able to say, yeah, we're just gonna take no damage here is really powerful. Am I coming in clear for you guys? Because on my stream preview, it's buffering over on Mega Mutant still. Am I coming in clear? perfect for you? Okay. It's just my stream preview then. Weird. So again, Out to Lunch. This card is not only hilarious because of Rocksteady's derp face. Yes, we are on Metalhead. Cool. Alright, so it's just my stream preview for some reason. So being able to just say, hey, this attack is -5 damage is dumb. I built 3 of these in my first 2 turns against my my local when I played Metalhead last night. I just said, yeah, I just have casually -15 damage, and I had Toughest Punk in junior high. So it's like, you're just not killing me ever. Sorry, dog. I'm gonna take a little bit of chip damage. I'm gonna rip a card from your hand. I'm gonna flip one of your foundations that says it's also an asset, and we're just gonna keep going. Slow But Strong is a really good deflect card. Plus, it can give your attack +2 or -2 damage. Juggling Groceries is solid for 5-handers for -3 speed. Reboot is perfect for Metalhead, because if your rival wants to deal big damage, they're going to have to give up an attack. So it's ripping another card out of their hand, and then you take damage, you rip a card out of their hand. You know, then you backstab. Oh, you don't have 2 foundations to flip? That rips a card out of your hand. So you can play this huge damage reduction, hand destruction, card flip Metalhead that just tells your rival, you don't really get to play much of the game. I'm going to really control what kind of abilities and cards you have access to. And then I'm going to throw just a massive Throat Slitter or a massive, massive blow and just powerful 5 you or powerful 6 you to death. I do think if you can't get too much into the hand rip, you might need to swap like Butte Basher or like Might of Stone for like some throws. Because I was seeing that I wasn't able to get a lot of momentum, but then again, I was playing a very janky Metalhead. But just being able to put in some throws, get some guaranteed momentum, and then just dunk on your rival with a huge powerful is great. Nature Calls is funny because if you commit it to pass the check to block, you can just tell your rival to flip another foundation. Shobijin's Message, to be able to say, hey, my next keyword rating is +1. Take damage, kick a card out of their hand. They play another attack. Cool, my next keyword rating is going to get +1. You play an attack, you flip Shobijin's Message to give it Breaker 2. That Breaker 2 turns into Breaker 4 and just ends their turn. I had my local play a 1 diff after I Breaker 4'd him, and he checked a 5, which ended up checking a 1, and he had to commit 2 cards in order to play one diff foundation. It was hilarious. Moth Monster is good for defense, speed hate. Titanic Combat can also force your rival to commit a foundation and give 2 damage. And since you're taking a lot of hits anyway, they can also help you build. Massive Size just commits for +5 damage, which is also really good for cards like Throat Slitter. So you can be like, hey, I'll play the Throat Slitter, I'll make you discard a card. I'm not going to powerful, but I am going to give it 5 damage. So if you don't want to take 10, you do have to block it. And in which case, if it doesn't deal damage, if you fully blocked it because you didn't want to take 10, you don't get to draw that extra card. So it is kind of a good way to play around Throat Slitter's Blitz to give your rival a card back if you're threatening big damage without having to give up your powerful, and you can keep boosting your powerful. Toughest Punk says you take 3 less damage, which is great for Metalhead defensively. Fateful Meeting is great because if you're going to take that hit, you can also say, hey, I'm also going to chip you for 3 damage. So it lowers their health even more, so these big, powerful attacks can deal even more damage, be even more threatening. And of course, Defending Pageant Queen is just really good speed hate, which the Earth symbol really lacks. So I found out I kind of want to play this on Void and see where we go from there as more of a discard and breaker style. But then again, you do lose like Twisty Surroundings, you lose Shobijin's Message. So I'm not 100% on which is better, a main Earth or a main Void build for Metalhead, but I am going to give Void a shot and see what else I can do on the main Void symbol. Like, because obviously you'll have like Barrier Shield to give plus Breaker 2 that you can increase, and you get set speed to 0. So it's going to be a little iffy because he is a 5-hander, and that's really weird, but you do have 37 health that they have to chew through, so that's just all really hard to kill. Alright, drink. crack open our backup here. So, what's your guys' favorite character that you've been tinkering with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Just to give me a little breathing break here. Titan Superfly, that's disgusting. Just a 4-check Superfly, like, hey, I'm gonna have all my schemes in a row here, and I'm just gonna throw this 10 difficulty move, this 10 difficulty throw, commit 6, give us 6 more damage. That's disgusting. That is really cool. I'm really digging Superfly. And 4 Ultra Regens. Yeah, that's pretty good. I guess you wouldn't want to play the Hood 6 diff that reduces your difficulty of your big attack. But yeah, 4 Ultra Regen. Oh, and you can play Food Motivated because it's a 2-check. Be like, yeah, I'll check the 2. That's fine. I'll just get a whole bunch more damage. That's gross. That's so cool. I dig that. I might have to tinker around with that. I am looking forward to playing Superfly. So we'll move on to Michelangelo the Wild Card. 7/23 Brawler Mutant. Response: after your attack is blocked, your next kick, pizza, or punch attack gets +3 speed. Only character really that wants to play pizzas. And on your rival's turn, you can commit Michelangelo. Both players, you add 1 ready foundation from each player's stage to their hand. So this is really cool because if you're all tapped out, your rival just picks up a foundation. You don't have to worry about picking up a foundation if all of your foundations are committed. Or you could just pick up the perfect block that you need. So pretty good defense there. And then you can just make a lot of attacks really, really fast. So we did, I will say, go for mainly a kick and punch and pizza style deck. So we've got Spinning Crescent Kick as a card pool response once per turn. After your attack is not blocked, it gets an additional 2 damage. When we're giving 3 speed to something, after they've already put something into their card pool, that attack's probably going to hit. So just an extra 2 damage is always going to be good. Flying Heel Kick, once per turn in our card pool as a response. After your attack is not blocked, your next attack gains Flash. This is pretty cool because we can just play, hey, we're going to play this attack. It gains Flash, but it does get the +3 speed from Mikey. So we're going to just guarantee it's going to hit no matter what. So that's pretty cool. I really dig this one, Increased Velocity. It gives itself 1 speed and 1 damage for each other attack in your card pool with a printed difficulty or printed speed of 5 or greater. So you throw this at the end of the string, this can become incredibly fast. And as a response, after your rival plays a responsibility during this attack, you get to ready a foundation that hasn't been readied this combat phase. So a little bit of like Ingenium energy here, who also loved kicks. Oh no, he loved charges and slams, I think. Or was it kicks and slams? I don't remember. It's been a while since I messed with Ingenium. But just being able to say, you played a response to try to counter something I did, I get to ready something up, is really good. Going out, it's a pizza card. 5 low 5 says after this attack deals damage, your next attack gets 2 speed and 1 damage. So if you give this the 3 speed, it's an 8 low 5. Maybe your rival doesn't have a way to reduce the speed. So you can say, I'm going to, just chuck 5 damage at you. That dealt damage, my next one gets 2-1. So just all of this kind of recurring stats just cascading throughout your turn is really dangerous. Rabbit Kick's a good opener. Rabbit Cross Kick. It's a 5 mid 5. It's an enhance. If it's blocked, you get to draw a card, and it's got powerful. So we have a use for all of this momentum for all these attacks that are hitting. And if it's blocked, we get to draw a card. So we can make this attack super threatening. Our rival blocks it. Our next attack gets 3 speed, and we draw a card. And of course, it's not a kick, punch, or pizza. But if our rival's committing a bunch of foundations to block our attacks, we have to play Walk the Dog. It's a 6 low 6, it's got stun 1, it gets -1 difficulty for each of our rivals' committed foundations to a maximum of -4, so it can become a 4 difficulty attack, and it draws a card for every copy of Walk the Dog in our card pool, including itself, so It's a 4 difficulty, 6 low, 6 with stun 1, powerful 3, and it draws us a card. So this could be a really dangerous card. So let's say we played Rapid Cross Kick or like Spinning Crescent, something like that. Our rival has to block it. So then we play Walk the Dog on maybe like a 4 diff, so it's like on a 5. We draw a card, we stun 1, we throw a bunch of damage on it with powerful. If our rival has to block that one, hey, our increased velocity is going to get +3 damage. And then it's going to get 1/1 for every other attack in our card pool, because all of our attacks have printed 5 or greater speed. So it's just kind of a good mix-up card. It's got powerful 3, which if we're giving a bunch of speed to stuff, damage is kind of where we lack. So yeah, I really think like Walk the Dog Mikey is kind of fun. Plus Rinku's yo-yos kind of remind me of nunchucks. They're equally complicated and useless. I'm not saying nunchucks are useless, I'm just saying I hit myself in the head a lot in karate class with nunchucks. Cape is also good defense because you can just remove an attack from the game. Same with Genkai's Guidance. You can mess your rival up with Airy Smiles. So you can flip a foundation, block with Airy Smiles. They have to play a non-attack card as their next form. And then on their next attack, if they play another attack after that non-attack card, you can say, hey, I'm going to commit Mikey. Now you're going to pick up a ready foundation. So I'm really going to stunt your ability to string out. So you can just keep on playing this kind of weird pseudo-defense game. And with Cape of No Return, you also have Splinter, which is kind of like Cape of No Return, but instead of removing the attack, it stuffs it into your rival's momentum. Which is just pretty cool, because any attack you don't have to deal with as a 7-hander is a win. Scaling Heights is good for our damage boost, because all of our attacks have 5 speed or greater. And if we have 11 or more foundations, if we are in Deadlock, we can also give 1 speed. So building into Deadlock to give all of our attacks +1/+1 could kind of just end games. Especially when we got defense like Youthful Optimism, turning our block modifier into a 0. And then cards like Mikasa Defeats the Female Titan and Shobijin's Message, making all of our blocks very, very powerful, with either Breaker 2 or making sure that the attack deals no damage no matter what. Cheerleader, another good alternative use for our momentum, giving an attack flash, so we can just deal with a printed damage attack. And of course, Nice Try, we've committed on our turn to pass the check. Ready's up during our rival's turn for -2 speed on their turn. It's just really good. Hello, Sam. Got a cat in the window. Dedicate Your Heart can ready foundations. So if we know there's a specific block modifier we need, but that block modifier is committed, we can sack a foundation to ready it and then pick it up with Mikey. Or we can ready cards like Moment of Normalcy, which is hilarious. I did that as Jamie with in Louisville, and let me tell you, setting things back to printed speed or damage more than once per turn is really a good way to stay alive. Daredevil, of course, if it's added to your hand from your stage, you can get +2 or -2 speed. So you can use that with Mikey to give -2 speed and then block with Daredevil if need be. All in all, he's very much a kind of a speed demon utility character who's got this really weird play pattern of forcing your rival to deal with your attacks by blocking them. Or if they don't, well, obviously they can take damage, but if they do, your next one gets even faster and they have to deal with that. So kind of putting your rival in a tough spot trying to figure out what they want to do. Cat's freaking out. Onward! Raphael! That's why... Okay. So I was trying to figure out for the longest time why this legacy was orange. I just figured out I never put the Raphael character in here. Because when you can see, you've got like the Raph from Enough Talk, and for some reason that never clicked in my mind that that wasn't the character. So, yeah, note to self. Do not deck build at like past 11 PM. So Raph is a 6 hand size, 32 health character with fire and good. Yes, womp womp, very womp womp. He has Enhance. This attack is +1 or -1 speed for each attack in your card pool, for each attack card in your card pool. And then Enhance, discard your hand. Your Fury attack is +4 damage. Obviously, if we have no cards in our hand, we can still use that for free +4 damage, which is why we play cards like Enough Talk. To remove the top 3 cards of our deck if we have played this from our hand, and we can try to play any attacks we remove this way during our turn, which is really, really cool. I dig Enough Talk a lot. I'm very scared about this whole playing cards from the remove from game pile. I was already worried that Endeavor 3 could just pick up an attack from the remove from game pile. So when you've got Enough Talk, Flying Elbow Drop, Spewing Vitriol, all these cards that can just say, hey, we're going to remove cards from our deck, or like Dreaming About Fighting, we're going to remove cards from our deck, and if they were attacks, we're going to get to play them again. And it just doesn't matter. Especially when all of these also have Fury, so we can give them 4 damage. 4 high 10, 4 high 8, 5 low 9. And then Spewing Vitriol also says, when you play a card from your remove from game pile, your rival loses health. So that works with Spewing Vitriol, it works with Enough Talk, it works with Dream About Fighting. It's just a good way to add a little bit of chip damage, which is not nothing. We got Unrelenting Advance, it's a powerful 2. As a response, if it's blocked, we get to mill until we mill an attack, and we get to pick that attack up. So we can pitch our hand for 4 damage on this late in a string, make our rival deal with it. If they don't, hey, they take a bunch of damage. If they do, hey, we're going to pick up another attack and keep going. Maybe we play another Enough Talk and remove 3 cards and say, hey, we hit 2 attacks, so we're going to play those 2 as well. So it's just pretty neat for keeping our hand a little bit up. We got Besiege because it's really hard to block, and this wears +4 damage very well. Wish Heart says after we discard it, we get to draw a card. Same with our Feral Shriek. Raphael Sigh says if we discard it and we have no assets, we get to build it. And if we have no cards in our hand, it's sacked for -2 damage. Splinter says we don't have to worry about an attack, we can just put it into the momentum. Grisha's Attack Titan, so kind of like, who was it? Leo. We want to pick up a lot of attacks from our discard pile. So Grisha's Attack Titan, Prelude to Destruction, Urameshi's Perseverance. These are all ways that we can grab attacks out of our discard pile to play during our turn after pitching our entire hand for +4 damage. Reckless Abandon lets us pick up cards from our hand, from our stage. Daily Training lets us build in foundations from our hand before we pitch our entire hand, so we can still build. And then cards like No Tact don't count towards progressive difficulty to play attacks, so that we can constantly, so we can play like No Tact, play some attacks, so that we're technically still building, on top of throwing a bunch of attacks. So we don't have to choose between building and attacking. Prelude to Destruction, we can sack it to after we mill or check an attack. We get to add that attack to our hand, so that's pretty good. If we check it on, like, after playing an attack, we, say we Enough Talk, we remove a couple of cards, we pitch our hand, play one of those remove from play cards, checked an attack, we're going to blow this up, pick that attack up, play another attack, and we can just keep going that way. Differing Perspectives just commits for -2 damage when we have no cards in our hand. But a reason this says fire, but that's just because there's so much fire attuned in this deck. But I mainly played it for Final Test, which says as a form, if we have discarded a card this turn, we can draw a card. And then Resistance Training. Mage Ultra is being slow again. Come on. There we go. Oh, you'll go to everything but Resistance Training? So Resistance Training is a 3-diff foundation that says Rival's turn, remove, spend 1 momentum. After your rival plays an attack, if you have no cards in your hand, draw back up to your printed hand size. So Resistance Training just says, I'm going to spend a momentum, draw 6. And that's your defense. That is such a very powerful card to play. If you can build one of those and get a momentum, you don't have to worry about pitching your attacks, all of your cards. And don't know if my internet's crashing or what, but it is not wanting to load. It's loading everything else up. Weird. But yeah, resistance training, you can spend a momentum after your rival plays an attack, draw back up to your printed hand size if you have no cards in your hand. There we go. Yeah, response rival's turn, remove, spend 1 momentum. After your rival plays an attack, if you have 0 cards in your hand, draw up to your character's printed hand size. So that's just remove, spend a momentum, draw 6. So it's like, cool, I'll pitch a whole bunch of cards to deal a whole bunch of damage, keep doing this weird loop. I have no cards in my hand when it comes to your turn. You play your first attack. I have a momentum. Now I have 6 cards to defend myself with. That is really powerful. Then you've got Final Test, Form, Flip if you've discarded a card this combat phase, draw a card. So just a lot of ways to either draw cards and refill your hand, or just different ways to play attacks outside of playing them from your hand. I know Raph was one that a lot of people were kind of down on, but after seeing the set full and seeing what other interesting tools he has access to, I think he's going to be really fun to play, and if you disrespect him, he is just going to nuke you. Alright, on to Rocksteady. So Rocksteady is a 633 Brute Mutant, Fire Earth. Enhance your Charge, Fury, or Slam, gets +5 damage. Add the top card of your deck to your card pool face down. And then at the end of your combat phase, if you have 6 or more cards in your card pool, flip a non-character card in your rival stage. So you can flip assets, you can flip backups, but you just got to figure out how you're going to overcome double progressive. And I will say that one of my favorite combos that we're going to talk about here is... where did it go? I might not have put it in here. Oh, I think because I built this on Earth. Yeah, I think because of the referee jury, I built this on Earth with that and the weapons clash. But on a fire build that I played, not only was I playing Rallied Assault, but I'm also playing Channeling Energy, and you play those late in a string. Yeah, I wonder why I built this on Earth. Probably for some probably because I forgot Forcing Surrender had fire. That might have been it. But playing it on Earth with or fire with He's Still Fighting. Response remove if you have 10 or less health. The next attack you play ignores progressive difficulty. So you just face tank a bunch of stuff to play Channeling Energy on a 5 and say, hey, I'm going to clear all other cards from my card pool. This attack gets 2 damage for each card cleared this way, and I cannot play attacks for the rest of the turn, but this is going to be, you know, with Rocksteady, a 5 high 10, and then let's say I removed 4 other cards, so I'm a 5 high 18 at the end of a string. This is going to really murder someone. It has Metalhead on it, but this is a Rocksteady card. Let's be completely honest. Besiege is a charge for some reason, and wears 5 damage really well. Defeating the Colossus Titan is a charge that can gain up to 5 speed, so you can be an 11 high for an 11. And if you have less than half your maximum health, it's an 11 high 15. So imagine 11 high 15 as your starting attack. And then you play like a Smashing Stomp on a 7. Get +1 to your next check to play an attack. Put another card in your card pool. This is a 4 low 11. And then chuck a Channeling Energy to make it a 5 high 18. Rocksteady is absolutely going to be a very dangerous aggro character, because if you just disrespect your own double progressive and you can just check 5s, you're just going to blow people out of the water. This dude is huge power. Rallied Assault is dangerous because of the 2 check, but imagine, hey, I'm going to spend a momentum. I'm going to remove all cards from both players' card pools and get 1 speed and 1 damage for each. And it is a Fury, so I can then put a card in my card pool and give it another 5 damage. So if your rival's been blocking a bunch and you're like, hey, you blocked 2 attacks, cool. I'll play this, I'll remove your 2 and my 4. So I'll give this 6 high 6/6 to make it a 10 high 10, and then I'll give it another 5 damage. So it's a 10 high 15 as my 3rd attack. And then you can play like a Channeling Energy for like a 5 high 14. This dude throws so many double damage attacks. It's brutal. This dude is absolutely brutal. And then you can throw calorie counter. If your rifle block to make calorie counter a 3 diff 5 mid 6. So a 5 mid 11 is a 3 diff that says, hey, if you block it, I get to gain 2 health. And I get to flip your best foundation. Just absolutely disgusting. This dude is going to put so much damage on things. Refrigerator is good defense. Dumbfounded is amazing because it ignores progressive, both offensively and defensively. So you can say, I'm just going to chuck this at the end of a turn with like 6 cards in my card pool, and it's still on a 3. Hard-headed helps clear our progressive if need be. Forcing surrender does the same thing. Weapons clash and toughest punk are good damage reduction, so that we can say, hey, I'm going to lower our health a lot. I do think that's what it is. I think I put this on Earth because it was either for like the Godzilla stuff, or because I forgot that He's Still Fighting didn't have Earth. But no tact again, it's something that we can play and then not worry about progressive on our attacks. And it's +3 or -3 damage. Shobage's message is good for breaker. Moth monster is good if we take damage, is -3 speed. Credible display helps stop responses. And we can pick up our foundations that we block with too. And then forcing surrender, like I said, is another way to clear our face downs if we're trying to play that version where it's like, oh, I don't have a channel energy, I don't have a rallied assault, I kind of need to play a more straightforward, a more honest game. So I'll put a card in my card pool, then flip one of these to clear it, so I just get the 5 damage and I don't have to worry too much about the big string, to play a more honest and straightforward game. But Rocksteady, man, if you just ignore the fact that you could check an attack at any time, he's just going to run people over, and I'm here for it. This dude is gross. I've actually pulled 2 alt-art Rocksteadies already. One from a pre-release kit and one from my box. It's uncanny. Alright, last 4. We got Splinter. So Splinter, Caring Father, is a 7/22 champion mutant. Water all. First enhanced once per turn. Tenacious. Changes attack speed and damage to the printed speed and damage of one other card in your attack in your card pool. So you can make one of your attacks really big or one of their attacks really small. And then rival's turn, commit, ready 2 foundations. This is mainly here for stun baton thrust, because you can block with this and then make one of your rival's attacks a 0 speed 1 damage move, which is freaking hilarious. And then of course it's got stun 2, and it can boost a lot of its own damage and speed by committing your rival's foundations. But we can, as a first enhance, give it like Humanity's Final Stand stats to make it a 5 mid 10 with stun 2. That's also going to get speed and damage. Or I like high 3, make it a 6 mid 6 with stun 2 that gets extra damage and speed. High 3 says the speed and damage of the next attack you play get +6, becomes 6 as a blitz. So you can high 3 into like a Patchwork Baby. Make Patchwork Baby a 6 mid 6 with EX3, Powerful 3, and Stun 2, which is disgusting, because then it also gets speed, a minimum of +2 speed. So, best viewers on stream, ignore whatever that is. I don't know if I can block it from here, but ignore that. But yeah, so basically you're playing some weak attacks on your rival's turn, like Patchwork Baby and Stun Baton Thrust, to make your rival's attacks 1 damage. And then on your turn, you're opening with Humanity's Final Stand or High 3 to make a very weak base stat attack much stronger on your turn. So go High 3. I'm throwing 6 mid 6. My next attack's going to become a 6 mid 6. So let's say it's like a Stun Baton Thrust. Or let's say it's a Patchwork Baby. And then I'm going to get a whole bunch of, make it 6 mid 6, stun 2, it's an 8 mid 6, give it 1, 2, 3, 4, so 4, so it's a 8 mid 10 after a 6 mid 6. And then I'm going to stun baton, make it a 6 mid 6, and then do the stun 2 to commit 2 for more speed and damage. Just absolutely nutty. Or making forward flip slash, like a 6 high 6 or a 5 high 10, that has EX2 and Powerful 2 that I can also mill to boost the EX and Powerful instead of just using Momentum. So this is another character that really makes use of forward flip slash. And it's a 1 high 2, so you can block with this and say, hey, rival, your next attack, first enhance, it's going to become a 1 speed 2 damage move. And it's just absolutely going to wreck their day. So I think Splinter's got this really cool, I'm going to control the stats of both of our cards, and we're just going to see what I can do when. Filled with Doubt and Area Smiles are really good defense. Clumsy Entrance is freaking hilarious because they play their big attack. Like, let's say you're playing against a Titan deck, and they have to commit like 4 or 5 foundations on their first attack. You're like, cool, first enhance, flip, put it back in your hand, and you're not allowed to play that card as your next form. They're likely just not going to be able to play that card. So your foundation base is mainly going to be, other than like Reprimand, defense based. You can protect your big stats with Guardian Angel of Chinatown. Street Hero is good for blocking because if you block an attack with like Stun Baton or Patchwork Baby or forward flip slash, and your rival plays and you've blocked at least 2 attacks in a turn, you can pick one of those attacks back up to play on your next turn, which is really, really strong. Thoughtful Classmate can pick up Patchwork Babies and Stun Baton Thrust, so after you've played them on your turn for big speed and damage moves, you can pick them up to reduce your rival's speed and damage after you block with them. Invincible Body is good defense, Resting Up is good defense. Foresight's just cool because you can, after you play it, you can check the top card of your deck. Funky Breath is really neat for speed hate because you get -2 speed, and if you fail the check to block this attack, your rival has to commit a foundation. And then Always Cool is just another way to mess with your rivals, to control your rival's damage output, because you can say, hey, I'm just going to sacrifice this. After you play an attack, its damage cannot be modified. So between that and your first enhance of Splinter, you have so much control over your rival's stats that you're just going to be like, nah, we're playing whatever I say we're playing. I say that your attack is a 0 min 1. I say that your attack is a 1-2. I say my attacks are going to be 5 mid-10s, which is really crazy. I'm also toying around, this is on the all build, but I'm also toying around with a version with Rando Spirit Gun. So you can play that first enhance once per turn, twice per turn on your turn, but I haven't figured out what attacks I want to run with it yet. So more on that later, possibly. Drink. Three more. So next up we got Superfly, Malicious Mutant. He's a 631 with Mutant, Air, and Evil. Enhanced, this attack is -3 speed, or -X speed or +X damage. X equals the number of foundations committed to pass the check to play this attack. And then in response, after you take damage, add a scheme from your discard pile to your card pool, and that card doesn't clear during the end phase of the turn. So he wants to take damage to get a whole bunch of schemes, and then he wants to check hack, he wants to breaker, he wants to flip from -2 to your check. Because the more foundations your rival has to commit, A, the shorter their turns are going to be, and B, the slower their moves are going to be, so then you can breaker and make them commit more foundations. We've got Superfly Swift Dive. We just get to add a rival foundation to their hand. Just say, oh, you have 2 ready foundations after committing all those foundations? Yeah, pick one of them up. It's got Powerful 3, it's real good. Quarterbacking from HQ, draws if we have a scheme in our card pool. Violent Animus Shot says we can remove one of their backups if they have one, to draw a card and gain Flash. If it deals damage, our rival has to remove a card from their hand. And this has Breaker 1. So this is a really cool breaker block that we say, hey, we're going to block with this. Breaker 1, you have to commit you have to get -1 to your next check. Which could be, hey, maybe you have to commit 1 more foundation. Which means your next thing is going to get more speed. Flurry of Punches. I said this in the Day 0 build. I think this cracks Superfly in half because your next check's going to get 2 difficulty. So you're going to have to commit more foundations to play it, so you get more damage with Superfly. But it also gives you 3 speed and 3 damage. So that makes any of your attacks like Animate Shot becomes a 7 high 8, plus whatever damage we get from Superfly. That's ridiculous. Polar Demon Gouge is a 4/7 that says, hey, my rival's next check to block this attack gets -3. So I can give a whole bunch of speed and a whole bunch of damage with like Flurry of Punches, with Superfly, and I can just say, hey, your check's going to get -3, so this is probably going to connect. Patchwork Baby, of course, we can just put a whole bunch of speed and damage on it with its own abilities at the end of a string. If we play this as like our 4th attack, even if we check a 5, we're going to have to commit 4. So give it an additional 4 damage. And Patchwork Babies is just going to blow people up. Twisty Surroundings is good because it's a breaker block to make our rival have to commit more foundations on defense. And if they make a check, we can give it -2 by committing Twisty Surroundings. So it's that, hey, you played that on a 5, you had to commit, you checked a 5, well, now you checked a 3. So either you can fail that and it won't end your combat phase, in which case I didn't have to deal with it, or you have to commit 2, which means your attack's going to get -2 speed. Super good. Barrier Shield is a 4 of in him. It's a must because your speed gets reduced to 0 and my next block gets Breaker 2, which means, hey, your next check's going to get -2 again. And then, of course, you want both Trash the City and Wipe Out All Mutants, so you can stack as many of these in your card pool as possible when you take damage. And then it's like, oh, I've got 2 of each, so my attacks are all going to get +4. And every time I play an attack, you're going to commit 2 foundations. So a lot of Breaker, a lot of Check Hack, and Trash the City is going to say your rival's just not going to block your super buff damage attacks. Wingnut's Warning gives Breaker. Duplicator's Research picks up our schemes from our discard pile, so we can play them as our first form to get the first form ability if need be. Dedicate Our Heart allows us to ready foundations to keep stringing. Mikasa defeats the female titans mainly here as, hey, we don't actually want to die, so let's not die. Rifle Arms plus speed or minus speed. We have Fighting for Control to check hack. Convenient Timing is cool because if we block with it, we can spend a momentum and our rivals' checks get -1 for the entire turn. So it's kind of like Breaker 1 on every card. So at the very minimum, we're hacking their check by 1. So we could try to make sure, oh, you're going to keep checking worse and keep committing foundations, and your attacks are going to get even slower. Above the City is really good because we can give plus or minus speed. And then Key Charge Strike, our attack gets +2 speed, and if we've dealt damage, it also gets 2 damage. So I kind of threw in some ways to kind of give us a little bit of extra speed since we do deal damage with Superfly. Your main issue is trying to find the speed, but between Trash the City committing their foundations, we've got Stun on Patchwork Babies, and then we're forcing them to commit a lot more foundations on their turn with all of our check hacking. We're mainly just going to set their board sideways and just pummel them with our huge attacks. Yeah, Superfly is one that I'm really excited to play. I really dig this kind of character. He is designed for people like me. Alright, on to the character I think was the hardest to build for this, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 440 Brawler Champion Inventor Mutant. As a static, if you check a 3 or less during your turn, you check a 4 instead, which means even if he's committed during your turn, you cannot check less than a 4. So I decided to see how many low check attacks we could play in this deck and just go balls to the wall. So to solve our 4 hand size problems, we've got cards like Enough Talk, which can, as a blitz, remove top 3 cards of our deck. We may try to play attacks remove this way this turn. We got Pale Rider, which has a drive 1, which means we commit 1 foundation or spend a momentum. We can clear another attack from our card pool rather than spending 1 momentum to pay the cost of this card's Echo ability, which is really cool. So we can just clear a card from our card pool, play this again, so turning 1 attack into 2. World's Weakest Hunter, after it deals damage, we may remove 1 foundation from our stage. We get to draw 1 card for every removed card in our game, or removed from game pile. So this works with Enough Talk, this works with Dream About Fighting, and we can just remove 1 foundation if we don't need it to try to draw even more cards to help solve our 4 hand size problem. Lethal Slash draws us cards. Warp Gate Portal as our next form can play any attack from our deck, which also helps solve our 4 hand size problems because we can play the best attack that we need, like a Pale Rider. So play that on a 6 after a Warp Gate Portal, and then commit a Foundation to clear the Warp Gate Portal to play Pale Rider as an Echo. Lethal Slash draws us a card and can remove itself, which can fuel World's Weakest Hunter. Sniping Spy can clear any card from our card pool for plus X damage. X equals 5 minus the printed check of the cleared card, which we can discard a flipped Pale Rider. So we've echoed it, it turns face down. Face down cards have printed values of 0, so we can Sniping Spy clear a Pale Rider that's been turned face down for plus 5 damage. So imagine we Warp Gate Portal into a Pale Rider clear Warp Gate Portal, flip, play Sniping Spy. So we've dealt 5 mid 5, 4 low 5, 4 low 5, 5 mid 8 off of having 2 attacks in our hand because we had the Sniping Spy and the Warp Gate Portal. So 2 attacks turns into 4 and threatens up to 28 damage, or 23 damage. Spewing Vitriol can remove the top card of our deck, and we may try to play it this turn, even if it's not an attack. So that can also help us build a little bit. And as a response in our card pool, if we try to play, after we successfully play a remove from game card, our rival loses a health. And all of these, like 2 check, 1 check, 2 check, 2 check. Sniping Spy is not going to get any less than like 3 damage, maybe, because 5 minus 2, 5 minus 1, 5 minus 2. So Sniping Spy could just pop off with some big damage if need be, while clearing our card pool so we can play even more attacks that we've drawn. Like say we drew with World's Weakest Hunter or Lethal Slash, and Lethal Slash removes itself, so that's even less progressive difficulty. And all of these 4 attacks, really, are 4 checks on our turn. So we don't have to worry about those bad checks unless it's our rival's turn, which is why we play a lot of Speed Hate. We play cards like Hold On Tight. If this attack deals damage, draw a card. So if we take a hit, we can draw an extra card. Juggling Groceries, we're a 4-hander. Our rival's always going to have more foundations than us, so these are always -3 speed. Reboot can hopefully force our rival to get rid of attacks, or we just take printed damage. Battle Holds the Answer, we can always stack a 6 on top of our deck when we need to on our turn. Loot Box can build a card during our turn, and then pick that card up to our hand, so we have something going into our rival's turn. Life of Danger, after we check a 2 or less, that check gets +1. So on our rival's turn, if we check one of our bad attacks, we get +1 to the check, so it hurts a little less. And then we have some draw with Curious About Quirks and Fearsome Transformation, so that we can try to, again, beat our 4 hand size problems, because we don't have any draw on face. This was the hardest character to build because he has 4 symbols: air, all, fire, and void. And there's so much attuned for all of these symbols now that I had really no idea what I wanted to do. But then I just started thinking of, what if we played a bunch of bad attacks that played other attacks, or drew a bunch of cards, or duplicated themselves, and just saw what we could do on our turn solo, and then hopefully survive our rival's turn because we have 40 health. And then try to go into another, like, maybe 2 big blitz turns of, like, good removes on Enough Talk and Spewing Vitriol. We got the Warp Gate Portal. We drew with World's Weakest Hunter and Lethal Slash. And we just frickin' go for it. I think this is the kind of character that just needs so much work put into him, but can be very rewarding as, like, a locals experimentation deck. I don't know how good he's going to be in higher competitive, but man, if something like this, where you can play so many attacks in a turn, even as a 4-hander, and not have to worry about checking a 3, like granted you have to worry about checking a 4, but it's better than a 3. If there's a way to do this, I think this dude can absolutely be cracked if people are willing to put in the time. And then lastly, we have Wingnut, Mechanical Genius, a 630, Inventor Mutant. Enhance once per turn, changes its attack zone to high, and give it +1 or -1 speed. And then response, after your attack deals damage, build a tech card with a difficulty of 3 or less from your hand. Or seal a rival foundation. Seal that foundation at the beginning of your rival's next turn. So, pretty cool that you can just say, hey, I'm going to seal your entire stage, basically, as long as my attack's doing damage. And there's a lot of cool ways to make that happen, with like Disabling Jab. Spend a momentum, your rival discards a card, you get to seal one of their foundations. So, I can just say, hey, I'm going to discard a card and seal that best defensive piece. You have Wingnut Sabotage, which is one of the scariest cards to be printed this set. I won't say this year because we've had some pretty scary ones. But as a static, your rival doesn't get to interact with this card. They don't get to play any enhance abilities during this attack. You get to freely commit one of their assets, and if they have at least one sealed card in their stage, it gets 2 speed, 2 damage. So it becomes a 6/6 on a 4 diff, and it freely commits an asset, and your rival's not able to play any enhance abilities during it. You can just boost it up as much as you want, which is crazy. Biting Dagger, as a response after you play this card, seal a rival foundation. So if you block with it or you play it as an attack, you just free seal it, and then Wingnut is a 6/6. Hooligan's Mockery gets gets to seal 2 rival foundations, and then gets +1 damage for each sealed rival foundation. So imagine Disabling Jab into Biting Dagger into Hooligan's Mockery. That's 4 foundations sealed, not including any foundations you sealed during your turn that resealed during theirs. Your rival's stage basically does nothing, and you get so much damage on a Hooligan's Mockery. We have Superfly's Swift Dive, so we can just put any non-sealed attack back into our rival's, or non-sealed foundation back into our rival's hand. And then Aerial Goblin Bolt is just cool because we can seal a rival foundation early, and then as a card pool response, we can flip it after a Blitz or Enhance ability is played. We can cancel it, so we can cancel a defensive enhance, or if we block with this, we can cancel a Blitz, which is pretty cool. Yeah, this whole attack lineup is just all about your stage does nothing. I'm going to seal it all, I'm going to get a whole bunch of bonuses for sealing, and I'm going to be very, very annoying. You have, for assets, you're either protecting yourself with Cape of No Return, you got -1 speed with Cabal's Ruin, but Cabal's Ruin could also boost a lot of damage. Imagine putting all of this damage on Wingnut Sabotage when your rival can't do anything about it. That's just crazy. Anti-Mutant Neutralizer is a tech that we can build with Wingnut's ability to draw a card and give an attack 1 speed and 3 damage. Sure, who wouldn't want to do that? And then actions, we have Filled with Doubt for more sealing, we have Barrier Shield for breaker and speed reduction. We can boost speed with High Above the City. Wingnut's Warning is great because you can build it. It's a tech foundation that you can build in, just to build in extra foundations throughout your turn so that you can extend your strings. Reboot's a good tech defense piece. Dedicate Your Heart can ready your foundations for longer strings. Fade to Black, response flip after an attack is played, seal a rival foundation. So if you're playing Wingnut Sabotage as like your opener for some reason, because maybe you have like 2 of those and then a Hooligan's Mockery, you can play Wingnut Sabotage, flip Fade to Black, you seal one of their foundations, you're automatically off to the races. Nonagon can seal their attacks. Wingnut basically says your rival's playing with all blank cards, and it's gonna be incredibly frustrating. You got Button Collector, which can spend a momentum to seal 2 of their foundations, and they may destroy a foundation to cancel this ability. So you can say, cool, I'm gonna spend my momentum, seal those 2, or you can get rid of a foundation, you can debuild yourself, and since you're not flipping their foundations, you're sealing them, so they have to give up an active face-up resource unless they've flipped for their own abilities. But it's not like they can just pop a face-down card that you flipped. They would have to give up a face-up resource, and then you can also draw more cards with Button Collector. So that's pretty good. But that's it. That is my start of my competitive thinking for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You can see, if you wanted to see these decks for yourself, just going at your own pace. Just Cameron Undergust on, hey, I can view my profile, on UVS Ultra, and it is in the list TMNT stream folder. if you wanted to take a look at these for yourself without me talking over them so you can think. But yeah, I am, as someone who doesn't really care about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, blasphemy I know, being a millennial, I'm really excited for this set. I think it has so many cool avenues that it opens up. It has so many cool characters to play, and I'm really excited for it. So if you've followed me live on Twitch, I really much appreciate it. You guys actually got me into the Twitch affiliate program last week because I guess I needed 25 followers, and you guys following me on Twitch allowed me to do that. So now I can accept bits. I can do emotes, which I have to figure out what those are, but also how to do it. But yeah, I'm gonna try to do Twitch streams, obviously shorter streams, a little bit more often. I was shooting for once a month, but I might try to do like 2 or 3 times a month now if I can figure out something to do. I'm really not good if I don't have someone to bounce off of, if you haven't noticed. But if you're watching on YouTube, thanks for making it this far in the video. Please give it a like. I really appreciate that. And subscribe if you haven't already. Maybe what I'll do is I'll use my YouTube videos for more beginner-friendly content and like Twitch streams to talk about and build more competitive, more advanced style decks. So if that's something you guys would like to see, leave me a comment down below. I'd really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one because it is late. So good night, and take care, everyone.